What is going on, YouTube? Andrew Miller from Hook'emHeadlines.com coming back at y'all today with another commitment breakdown. Texas got a big one today. Four-star Orlando Jones defensive lineman DeAndre Robinson. Texas landed Robinson's commitment over offers from schools like Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, among multiple others. I believe he had something like 4 or 5 dozen FBS offers, just a crazy number like that. But the two main schools that were involved in this recruitment when it came down to it were Texas and Florida. Florida had the lead in this recruitment heading into the summer, but Texas made a big move during Robinson's official visit, which came last month. And, Bo Davis and Steve Sarkisian really sold him on, the vision that they have along the defensive line heading into the SEC, and, really made him one of their top priorities along the defensive line. He liked Austin. I think that the idea of going out of state to him did appeal, and so Texas was able to make a big enough late push to land him over the Gators. He's the third defensive lineman to commit to the Longhorns in the 2024 class. Texas also has commitments from 3-star defensive lineman Melvin Hills, guy out of Lafayette, Louisiana, Lafayette Christian Academy, and then also 4-star Duncanville nose tackle Alex January. January and Robinson are two of the quote-unquote big humans for Texas along the defensive line. I think between them two, something like 640 pounds. Both of them are 6'4" taller. January's about 6'5", 325. Robinson is about 6'4", 315. And so they're two of my favorite commits to Texas in the 2024 class. And, with Texas now having 3 defensive linemen in the class, that pretty much just leaves one spot open. And I think the two guys to watch at this point, namely, it will be 5-star Acadia defensive lineman Dominic McKinley. He's the top target for Texas on the board along the defensive line. And then you also have 4-star IMG Academy defensive lineman TJ Lindsey. Texas still prioritizing him, just not as much as McKinley. But for Lindsey, going to be a Texas-Auburn battle. For McKinley, there's more schools involved, but right now it looks like Oklahoma, A&M, LSU, Texas. I think the more that recruitment goes along, the more it favors LSU, but Texas has a good shot there right now. They're sitting in a good spot after the official visit. Let's go ahead and take a look more like, Robinson's game, what he brings to the table, his strengths and weaknesses, and ultimately how he projects at Texas. This is the format that I usually do for these sorts of videos, but let's go ahead and start some of his strengths and get to know his game. So again, I mentioned Robinson's about 6'4", 315 pounds. Fits that big human mold that Texas really likes to get along the defensive line. He's really, I think he's really someone that brings a lot of versatility to the table. I mentioned this in the article I did over at the site. As always, I'll link that in the description below. But in the article I did breaking down his game, I mentioned that there's a few different techniques that he can play along the defensive line. He's a guy that's definitely big enough, has enough power, big enough frame to play at the nose tackle position, but he can play 0, 1, or the 3 tech. In a sense, he's, kind of a combination of not to the same size as Keandre Coburn, but in terms of his foot speed, his length, he's got a little bit of that T'Vondre Sweat foot speed like Coburn. But he's kind of a combination of them too in a way where Sweat can play that 1 tech or 3 tech and be really disruptive along the interior. And then, Coburn was a guy that was really coming into his own last season and ultimately ended up getting drafted into the NFL. But physically, Robinson is just a stud. The guy's, again, got good hands, good foot speed. He's got good bend in the knees, ankles, hips, all that you would want out of a interior defensive lineman. Very strong lower base. Also above average foot speed and straight line speed. If you watch him on film, he's got, high effort, high motor player, but really is pretty agile in the open field, good speed and change of direction as well. So he's a guy that has a lot of strong athletic traits, and just from the standpoint of his versatility and athletic upside, someone that's going to be really valuable for Texas to have in the SEC. More specifically to his game and just kind of how he'll impact Texas's defensive line, he's someone that right now I think needs a little bit more refinement as a pass rusher. I'll get into that a little bit later, but the potential is out of this world for him, as an interior pass rusher. He's got quick feet, quick burst off the line of scrimmage. If he does take the proper pad level approach, he's someone that is really strong at the point of attack. I think one of the most underrated parts of his game is he's got a pretty impressive arsenal of pass rush moves. He's got a good swim move. He's got a good spin move. I'm sure you'll see that. As always, include some B-roll for this video, but he's already pretty developed in the way of his array of pass rush moves, his hand usage. In that respect, I think he's pretty much ready to go. And so a guy that's got really, really high upside again as an interior pass rusher, I think that he's going to be excellent in collapsing the pocket. And again, he's got long arms, so once he kind of hunts you down in the backfield, you're not going to get away too often. And then his ability as a run stopper, I think, is what impresses me the most right now. If I'm just looking at his game in a nutshell. Again, guy that's pretty versatile, just a playmaker around the line of scrimmage. I mentioned earlier in the video that Robinson's a really good read and react interior defensive lineman. He's got that quick burst off the line of scrimmage. Mind that his length, strength, strong lower base specifically, speed and change of direction. The guy's really, really good against the run. He's going to make a lot of plays for you. He's not someone that you're going to move off the line of scrimmage, move off the ball. So just all told, I think a guy that's going to be disruptive and really, really productive as a run stopper. Last thing I wanted to say on his run stopping ability, I mentioned earlier, a guy that plays with high effort, high motor. He really finishes plays. Above average straight line speed, closing speed is really, really good for an interior defensive lineman. So even if a ball carrier's 3, 5, 10 yards down the field, Robinson's still going to try to hunt him down and bring him down to the turf. So all around from a physical perspective, upside, run stopping, pass rushing ability along the interior defensive line, Robinson's going to be a really potent guy for the Longhorns. Talk about some of his areas of improvements. I mentioned earlier in the video that consistency, I think, with his approach, with his leverage, could use a little bit of work. Some of his camp and combine film looks really, really good when he's going one-on-one with offensive linemen. You can see the raw talent tools there. Also, when he has a little bit more time to slow down, think about his approach, he's able to get in his low stance, approach with the proper pad level, and really get good leverage. And so, I think that part of his game is there. It's just he's got to be refined a little bit in terms of being able to do that every single down. It gains speed. I think that comes with experience. That's going to come with development in the next couple of years. So, but also he's a guy that could top out around 6'5". I think that he's got some room to add muscle mass to his frame. Again, right now he's about 315 pounds. Wouldn't surprise me if you can get him up to around 320 to 330. So I think adding a little bit of size there would be good. But ultimately, outside of working on kind of that approach, balance, technique, I think he's pretty polished. And so that'll lead me into my next point here, talking about his projection and fit at Texas. If he can improve upon some of those areas that I pinpointed a moment ago, then he's a guy that's going to be able to push for a spot on the 2 deep by, I would say, his second year on campus. Ultimately, he should be an early impact guy. That'll be the expectation for him. Be able to be a significant contributor in the SEC by about 2025, 2026, which is around his second or third year on campus. I think the only question is how much depth does Texas end up adding along the defensive line? Texas got a pretty good thing going with, getting their big humans, getting, that type of player in the trenches, stocking the cabinet full heading into the SEC. He should be a guy that's a multi-year starter, NFL draft type prospect, if he's able to come even close to living up to his potential. And I think an all SEC caliber performer, again, if he's able to get close to living up to that upside, that is just pretty incredible, again, given his tools and some of the polished areas of his game so far. I posted it over on the Twitter page today. He's got 137 combined tackles the last 2 seasons for Jones, 33 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, 1 forced fumble, nearly 20 quarterback pressures. He's really, like I said, really, really productive player. He's playing against high-level competition in Florida. He's playing against guys like Peyton Kirkland, like C.J. Baxter, other Florida natives that Texas has gotten up the Sunshine State in the last couple of cycles. And so, I don't think that the jump in competition is going to be very much, or is going to be very challenging for Robinson either, compared to some of the other guys that might be playing, in a state that's not as big for high school football, or at a lower level of high school football in states like Texas, California, or Florida. And then to round out this video, I wanted to take a look at kind of what's next for Texas in the 2024 class, name a couple candidates that I think could be next to commit. First one is a name I mentioned earlier, 4-star IMG Academy defensive lineman TJ Lindsey. I think Lindsey is likely to make a decision before his senior year, or before his senior season of high school football starts at IMG. Texas and Auburn, I mentioned, is going to be the battle there. Auburn's been pushing really hard in this recruitment the last couple months since he officially visited Auburn early June. I think if Texas pushes, though, it's going to be an interesting battle. Texas definitely still has a chance here. I think the logical next commitment to Texas in the 2024 class will be 4-star Lancaster defensive back Corian Gibson. I think Texas holds at least a slight edge over Clemson. For Gibson, he's got a commitment date set for July 22nd, so he's the next big commitment date to watch for key targets for the Longhorns in the 2024 class. And then the last name that I mentioned in the article was 5-star edge rusher out of Duncanville High School, Colin Simmons, number one edge rusher recruit in the nation in the 2024 class. Obviously, Simmons is like the must-get guy for Texas in this class, but it seems like he's speeding up his decision timeline. He's got a visit set for LSU next weekend for their Bayou Splash, and then I believe he's taking an unofficial to A&M. But he also teased a commitment date on social media. I believe that was yesterday morning, and so sounds like he's getting to the closing stages of his recruitment there, and so that's going to be a potential commitment to watch in the near future for the Longhorns. But those would be the three guys I would pinpoint as next to watch to jump in the 2024 class for the Longhorns. But anyway, for Andrew Miller, Hook'emHeadlines.com, that's pretty much it. Hook 'em.